All right, so the Super Bowl is in the books. The Seattle Seahawks are champions. And before we get into the big game, obviously, this is the big episode recapping Super Bowl 60. If you were, I was thinking this like as we were watching the commercials and stuff, because I have found the commercials over the last few years to be extremely underwhelming. I mean, thinking back to the early 2010s and even like the 2000s, just some of the iconic commercials that came out. Really not seeing the number of those anymore. But there was a definite theme to just what these commercials were for the entirety of the Super Bowl. If you were someone watching from, wherever, pick an international country that doesn't get subjected to American entertainment very often. If you're watching this and seeing the commercials, you're thinking, okay, so America is really, really fat, and they want you to know, hey, you could take this shot. Like you need to get skinny and do it quick. Um, the AI is going to take over the world very, very soon, and you should gamble your everything into oblivion until you are uh, indebted to DraftKings and anyone else. I mean, those were the three, and throw crypto into the mix
I
as
thought you
well.
were going to go with. I thought you were going to go a different direction. I love where you went. I thought you were going to go to different. If you're watching this from like Nepal and you don't know American culture, you would have just been so confused by like because every commercial had a celebrity appearance, and
Well, that's true. Yes, yeah.
if you don't know the celebrities, it's like what, who, what? Like the whole Dunkin'
What are these
commercial makes no
references? Yeah.
sense if you don't have any reference to celebrities or
Good.
'90s
Yeah.
culture. Um, like I'm trying to think like ones that stood out to me.
That
Obviously,
Duncan one was great. I did
I
like
thought
that one
I
a lot.
laughed at that one. I really we all know I'm a Miller guy through and through, a Miller Lite. But I credit to Budweiser,
Clydesdale,
the
yeah.
Clydesdale and the American Eagle. It's like, oh God. As soon as it started, you were like, I know where this is going, and God, I love it. Just like
Yeah.
America, patriotism. And then I thought the Danny McBride, Keegan
Keegan Michael
Michael
Key
Key,
and,
like we're
yeah,
the kind of average insurance company and not State Farm. I thought that was funny, but I'm
those
just like I'm a sucker for Danny McBride, so I'm just kind of
yeah.
like I'm all in on this. But yeah, I will say it was the first Super Bowl. I mean, I can't really say that. It felt a lot like last year's Super Bowl where it was just like the game is not that interesting. And so I was getting up at points of times like during the game because I was
Sure.
like there was like, oh, I don't want to miss the commercials or whatever. Like, oh, there were so many times in that first half to like go refill my drink or go get more buffalo chicken dip. Shout out to Sam's Club, great buffalo chicken dip. It's just heat and serve. It's so good. The where literally it was like, oh, it was like a 3rd and 5, and the Patriots don't convert. I'm like, okay, I'm getting up now because I'm like, they're gonna go punt. Seahawks, so they're gonna be conservative, and then like I'll just refill it. I won't miss the commercials and then the start of the Seahawks drive. I really felt like the game flow dictated like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna miss the big moment. Like
Yeah.
there's just it felt like, especially early in that game, it was so tender. Like they were just everyone was just it was such a feeling out game, and the defense dominating. I was like, all right, I can get up on this 3rd down as soon as the pass goes incomplete. I can take the 30 seconds. I'm not going to miss anything crazy, and I can still keep an eye on the commercials.
For sure. Yeah, it was a lot more, centered on it of course, like, this is, I'm probably gonna butcher how I wanna say this, but it's all consumerism, of course. That's the whole point of commercials. That's the whole point of like Super Bowl commercials. But the way they did it in the past was purely for like brand entertainment. Like, we just want you to know that Doritos is like the one with that like really
Yeah.
blunt and like quirky scenario or
Yep.
situation. And there's a million examples of that. This year, it really just felt like, oh, we just want you to like, we really, really want you to buy this product and like tell you how cool it is. And it just seemed very forced with a lot of those commercials,
Well,
especially a lot of the AI and crypto ones, which, I mean, to be fair, there's only so much you could say about it. At the end of the day, it's like, we know you just want, to let us like gamble or buy crypto as much as possible. I mean, there's only so much you can do with that. But
I agree. I think that's a great way to say it. I don't think you butchered that at all. The only thing I would add to it is just like the amount of money that is spent on them, it's like everyone is just trying to play it safe. It used to be people would take a risk and be like, I don't, even if bad press is good press, like if we have the worst Super Bowl commercial, no one was trying to do like anything crazy where it's like, oh, we might get panned for this. Like, and I said this the other day to some friends. I'm like, at work, I was like, I don't like that 2 weeks ago, I knew that Pepsi was doing the blind taste test with the polar bear commercial. Like that was released, the whole commercial.
Right, yeah, because then yes, it removes
but
the shock
again,
value.
but again, they spend so much money on it. They know they have to get as much like shock. They have to get as much talk and publicity and as much, like I also like the Guy Fieri Bosch one. I thought was really good. Like Bosch is a company I don't think of. It's like, they have power tools and they have appliances. They're kind of they're like a GE competitor, right? They're this kind of weird company. And that one sticks with me because I'm just like, oh, they did something where just like, I'm a regular guy and then I use a Bosch thing and now I'm Guy. Like, it was, it made me think of that brand in a positive, like, oh, Bosch, like that's a good, like that was simple and fun and well executed.
But it's entertaining.
Versus like, hey, I already know State Farm, so State Farm is going to do something. Let's just go over the top and have Danny McBride with his bad singing voice singing like, a karaoke. It's like, oh, okay. Or Bud Light. We all know Bud Light already. So let's get Peyton Manning and Shane Gillis and Post Malone and go just big celebrities. Bosch, I thought they was one of those like, hey, I don't really think of Bosch. And now it's like they just nailed that commercial. Well done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's probably the best example of what you aim to do.
Hey, it's kind of like what you said. It's like brand recognition. Just appreciate our brand. You're going to maybe not think of our brand. We're going to spend some money, and now maybe you'll think of the brand.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, let's get to the big game, Super Bowl 60 recap. The Seattle Seahawks bludgeoning the New England Patriots. Let's get into it. All right, the Seattle Seahawks defeat the New England Patriots 29-13. Our scores were not correct here on the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan, but the outcome was correct. Seattle jumping out to an early lead in this game and never looking back. Mark, you were right in terms of how both teams were really feeling each other out for a good portion of the game, especially the first half. And, that's something that I kind of talked about in the preview show was I really was hoping a team, particularly Seattle, would come out kind of guns blazing and taking some big shots, which to their credit, they kind of did. They took a couple really big, deep shots early in the first few series. They just didn't connect on them.
Yeah.
But overall, it really was both teams kind of trying to play that field position game for a while. Both defenses were playing well enough to where that could work. I actually thought the first half played great for New England because of how they were able to keep their offense in it and just give a chance. Going into the second half, all New England needed was one drive to really put this game in a completely different light. The problem is they just never got that drive.
Couldn't do it. Yeah, my initial my thinking back on just like the kind of the start of the game, we'll kind of go chronologically. Like in that first quarter, I didn't understand the game plan from New England once they realized early on that the tackle was going to be an issue, right? Like we kind of predicted that the Will Campbell and Will Campbell. I can't think of the left guard's name, but he's a rookie too. I mean, the whole left side of that offensive line is two rookies, a guard and then obviously Will Campbell, the high pick tackle. Will Campbell had a really bad day, 14 pressures. And I think really early on, Seattle was very creative with their blitzes. And it was like, they're going to.
You called that too, because you were like, hey, why not just blitz them? And they had no answer because their front four can already get into the backfield you now insert a bunch of random blitzes from different places. That was a problem for Drake May.
And that's why I just was so confused by the game plan, because conversely, credit to New England's defense, they held Seattle to 9 points in the first half. Like, and Seattle, you could tell New England was being aggressive in a different way. They were being aggressive on the ball. They were trying to get a pick. It's like their whole game plan was, please, dear God, just sell out for an interception. Because as we talked about, if you can get in Darnold's head, maybe that can be the kind of dam that breaks for us, and it'll give us the mental edge. Huge credit to Sam Darnold. He led the league in turnovers in the regular season and had none in the two biggest games.
Yeah.
And was terrific not turning the ball over throughout the whole entirety of the playoffs. Conversely, Drake May, in the second half, when things just really unraveled with the 2 interceptions, the fumble, it felt like early on I didn't understand the game plan. Total,
they didn't. Just to validate that point. I was waiting for the Josh McDaniels influence of, okay, we are now going to dial up real quick passes. It's got to be 2 seconds in and out, and we know where we're going.
The Brady offense.
Yeah. Now maybe I don't know what went into it. I don't know. Maybe guys weren't getting open at all. Maybe Drake May was not making the right reads and hanging on to it. There could be a variety of reasons, but for whatever reason, there was no semblance of a quick, confident getting the ball in playmakers' hands fast. They barely even threw to the running backs. No outlet seemed to be available for New England. And that's what was probably most concerning, because you're like, in the first half, they're in it. They can take some chances and Drake maybe even could take some chances of just trusting a guy to be in his spot and throw it to the spot right away. None of that was happening.
Yeah, you're right. And it goes, along with my point of it just was confusing. The first half game plan, it didn't feel like they adjusted at all. And then in total, you have 13 carries from your running backs for 42 yards total in the game. And I just felt like, hey, if it's 9-0, right? It's 6-0. It's close game. And you're going to be, and you realize early on, they're going to bring exotic with the blitzes. Let's just keep running the football, and maybe you break a run, and maybe, just maybe, then you can get them on a play action, right? And you can take that deep shot you really want to take. There just didn't seem to me at all to be a confident offensive game plan. And again, whether that was Drake May and his just struggles, as you pointed out, maybe they were calling the plays, he didn't do them well, or maybe it was the game plan itself. It didn't make a ton of sense. Now, conversely for Seattle, I thought their game plan made sense. They just couldn't convert when it got tight. I mean, they got to the red zone, and, credit to Myers, the kicker. He makes 5 field goals in the game.
Yeah.
More than 40 yards. I mean, it was really, for Seattle, I thought, so brilliant by Mike McDonald. And we'll talk about how great he was coming up here. I mean, he deserves so much credit. I thought their first half game plan was really smart. Just take the points. We're going to go back on defense. Just take the points. We're going to go back on defense. And in doing so, getting up 9-0 there by the end of the half, while yes, it felt like, God, you're dominating this game and it's only 9-0. But it also felt like it allowed their offense to still feel like they could play with confidence going into the second half. And there was no major mistake made. And credit to them, too. Walker was a stud in the first half. Almost 80 yards rushing of his 135 in the first
half. The one thing New England couldn't afford to do was let them run all over him. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened.
He ends up averaging 5 yards a carry. And so I felt like, hey, while it wasn't turning into touchdowns, Seattle's offensive game plan against a very good Patriots defense was working, and they were getting points. There was no demoralizing. There was no turnovers. They were running the ball, and they were taking the points when they could get them. Conversely, for New England in the first half, it was nothing's working. There's no adjustments. And I don't understand why they kept dialing up the plays they did. To So that was kind of my thought in the first half. Now, I will say, Dan, I don't know about you, but as I settled in for the third quarter, New England gets the ball to start. I truly felt like, okay, we're going to have a game here. Like, now it's going to get fun. Now it's going to get interesting. And the third quarter was more of the same. It was just really the same game as the first half. Seattle took the points when they could, and they go up 12-0 to end the third. And New England just absolutely nothing burger in the third quarter.
Yeah, 7 sacks of Drake May in the entirety of this, and they needed to come out with some sort of spark. You get the ball; these are scripted plays, much like the beginning of the first half for a lot of these teams when they can get things in rhythm. They couldn't. They couldn't dial up anything. To your point about the left side of the offensive line, it only got worse in the second half. Drake May was under constant duress, but he needs to do a better job of holding on to the football. He led the league in fumbles this postseason. Actually, I think he set a record for most fumbles
Yeah,
in a
past
postseason.
Joe Burrow.
So obviously that's not good, and that's going to lead to a lot of problems. And then they're still somewhat hanging in there because their defense continues to hang tight. And there's 9 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the ultimate game-changing kind of game over play when Drake stepped up in the pocket and if he delivered an accurate strike, that was probably going to be a great play. But instead, he throws up kind of a floater, and it gets picked off. And, they talked about in the broadcast, everybody was talking about it afterwards too. So we all saw it. That was not the moment to try and take the big shot.
Yeah.
If you're Drake May, he seemed to panic and say, wait, I've had a little more time in this drop back than I've had most of the game. I'm going to step up and just fire this one down there. That ended up obviously the ultimate straw that broke the camel's back was the interception return touchdown that truly ended up sealing it for Seattle. But that with 9 minutes to go, I believe it was only second down. You had momentum. They were actually starting to put a drive together.
Yeah.
And you were only down 2 possessions at that point. So I think ultimately what this was the inexperience of the quarterback, the most important position in the game. The inexperience on his side of really dealing with some of the great defenses this year. I know that they beat Denver, but they had a relatively easy schedule this year, and they came against the toughest defensive opponent that they've seen all season long. Pair that with the offensive line woes, and that just kind of made a recipe for disaster. A little bit too big of a moment for Drake May at times because he just did not. He looked out of sorts even when he had time and was throwing passes to open receivers. They were behind him. They were out in front too much. It just wasn't a good outing.
It reminded me so much of the Jared Goff Super Bowl with the Rams, where he was, I think, a second or third year player, and he was going against New England, and it was just like, wait, this prolific offense. Remember, Jared Goff was putting up insane numbers. That was he had the game against Mahomes, and the Rams were this greatest show on turf 2.0, young McVay, young Goff, and Todd Gurley. And then all of a sudden it was just like, it all fell apart. And it felt that way for Drake May in this game. I want to walk you through that sequence you're talking about. So I wrote it all down because I think to me, this is just so, there's so much to digest here.
It was 12-0 at this point.
So at the fourth quarter, Seattle goes up 19-0 on the pass to Barner. So it was 12-0 at the end of the third. Seattle goes up fourth quarter. They have the pass to Barner, and that breaks it open. It's 19-0. And you think, okay, it's over. New England hasn't done anything. Seattle gets the touchdown. Well, Seattle's defense has a really bad sequence after that. New England scores 3 plays, 65 yards in 57 seconds.
Yeah.
And that was the pass to Mac Hollins. It was like a 30-something yard And it's and here we are, Dan, with 12 minutes and 27 seconds left in the fourth. You have over 12, like the whole quarter in the fourth. And it's now 19-7. There's a lot of people questioning maybe why didn't Vrabel go for 2 there? You could have cut it to 19, like 11. That means you had touchdown.
But I thought it was a right choice because if you don't get the 2-point conversion and Seattle does get another field goal, now it's 22-6 and you're down. You have to get now 2-point conversions to just tie the game.
Just to tie it.
So I understood the logic there.
I'm with you too. I also, for me, thought, okay, well, there's enough time left, and you finally had something positive. You don't want to end it on a negative. That drive could not have ended on a negative. So what's crazy to me then is, so at 12:27, that happens. The next score is at 5 minutes and 35. So 7 minutes have gone off the game clock, and the next score is that Seattle field goal, 22-7. The next drive is the pick six, 29-7. And that's with 4:27 left in the game. To me, that's the final score. I know a lot. They go on to score, the final is 29-13, whatever. The final to me was 29-7. Like Seattle had won the Super Bowl.
The nail in the coffin.
They won the Super Bowl. There was no comeback left. Seattle's defense gives up, the 8-play, 7, whatever drive to score there with a minute or two left. To me, the score was 29-7. So when you say it was a beatdown, I look at the 29-7. Because even 29-13 is a beatdown, but it's more indicative of really what this game was. And to me, if I'm a New England fan and I'm Josh McDaniels and I'm Mike Vrabel, I have to look at in detail what happened between 12:27 in the fourth and 5:35 in the fourth. That's the game right there, right? You everything else you can make the argument, hey, we were playing them tough. We were hanging around. It was never totally out of reach. We scored. We cut the lead, to 12. We're very in this game with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. How do you then not score again before Seattle does? And how do you lose 7 minutes on the clock before Seattle scores again, which basically sealed the game anyways? The field goal there anyways, 22-7. So that's, to me, if I'm a Patriots fan, I'm going to spend my offseason really digesting that. And I haven't really gone deep dive on everything that happened in that moment. Obviously the fumble, the interception, then of course the pick six. There's a lot that goes into it. To put into perspective, I want to ask you this question. Before we start talking about how great Seattle is, I kind of want to finish on this Drake May conversation we're having. Drake May in the fourth quarter after the touchdown pass to Matt Collins. Again, so after the 12:27. The next drive was 7 plays, 40 yards, interception. That was the one by Love. And then it was 4 plays, 18 yards, the pick six by Nwosu. Like, I thought there was interesting discussion online about, well, okay, look at Drake May in the playoffs overall. Maybe that shoulder, maybe he really was injured. Okay. If your guy is really that injured, well then first off, I feel like the team did him a disservice and like it wasn't talked about enough, right? If it comes out that he's now getting surgery on his throwing shoulder and he was really dealing with injuries, that's, to me, not like a great excuse, right? Because now it's like, wait, our second-year quarterback, who was technically the best running quarterback in the NFL this year, when we needed him the most, was too injured with an injury to his throwing shoulder to perform well in the Super Bowl. That's not a great excuse. And if the other excuse is, well, he's young and it just kind of fell apart, that's fine. But then you have to really question it, like, okay, how good is Drake May right now? Because we know the soft schedule. Historically, it's like the second easiest schedule of the Super Bowl era or whatever it ended up being. And then when he played good defenses, while yes, New England won, Drake May did not look great in any game in the postseason. So either way, I think it's a legitimate concern, which is crazy because here's a guy at the end of the regular season was like it was blasphemy for a lot of people to say he's not the MVP. And now we're looking at this, and Dan, I think it's legitimate for us to sit here and say a couple days after the Super Bowl, what are your thoughts on Drake May right now? If there's a real injury, that's a concern. If he was just that bad, I know he's a young player, but it's still a concern.
Yeah, I don't feel so much concern about if it's just performance wise. I think it can be very easily explained by second year quarterback in the Super Bowl with not much help offensively at all. I mean, when Ben won, he didn't play very well in that Super Bowl against Seattle in '05. And he was, aided by the fact that he had a legendary defense on the other side. And he had, Antoine Randall L, who threw a touchdown to Hines Ward, and you still had Jerome Bettis and Willie Parker. So there was a lot of help there to ease a player in. Drake May is a guy that coming into this game, they're like, you are the offense, like we need you. And he had, carried this team for a good portion of the season. I'm not so much worried about where he projects in the future. I think he's done enough to inspire confidence. I don't think it's going to be a Jaden Daniels situation in year 2. Hopefully not, because there are parallels with an injury there. But I just don't see that in the cards for him. If it is an injury, that is a concern, of course. So I share that with you entirely because he played the last game of the season, so he's as close to the next season as a player can be. We were talking about a throwing shoulder, and yes, to your point, he was the best running quarterback statistically this season, and I felt like there were a lot of opportunities here, and there were like maybe 2 runs in there where I was like, okay, he's taking it. I felt like there were more opportunities to be had on that front to help extend drives. It was an injury part of like his decision making in that, or was it just that Seattle was blitzing too effectively to where there was just no feasible gap for Drake May to find, and that I don't know the answer to, but it's probably a little of both.
It's great. It's great.
Overall, it was just this was a Mike McDonald special, and I think he deserves obviously, 80% of the credit for this, along with the players, of course. But that defense was incredible.
First coach to call the defensive coach to call the defense and win a Super Bowl. Even Belichick never called his own defense.
Call the defense. Yeah,
I mean, sure. I know it's beaten over a dead horse, but he truly is the defensive McVay, Johnson, Shanahan, where it's like, I'm going to do what they do, but for my side of the ball. And listen, we talk so much. We're going to talk all next week about all the new hires, the coaches' hires. And one of the things that is crucial right now to winning in the NFL, it seems, when you look at Andy Reid, when you look at Sean McVay, now when you look at Mike McDonald, the guys who won recent Super Bowls, you want someone who is an elite at their side of the ball and also is calling the plays on their side of the ball. And I still believe the Belichicks of the world can win a Super Bowl. I still believe the Vrabels of the world can win a Super Bowl, where they're a CEO head coach who is an expert at one thing. But the trend right now is not that. The trend is offensive guys who call the plays, or now Mike McDonald. He deserves so much credit. This is year 2. This is a Seattle roster that he didn't inherit some sort of juggernaut. They were not terrible, right? Like Pete Carroll had them viable. But even then, you look at the picks they've made, they've added to this roster, the veterans they've traded for and signed. Lawrence, obviously up front, was huge. I had made the bet that someone's going to break the sack record of 3.5 sacks. They got 7 sacks. The most someone had was 2. 3, I think 2 different guys had 2. But I just felt like the storyline of the New England's offensive line was a real storyline with Will Campbell not being good enough. And Seattle's defense just had too many guys and too many dudes. And the creativity with the blitzes, the decision of when to blitz. That is a head coach calling his shot. I mean, that
Yeah.
is Dan, no team even went for it on 4th down in this game. I mean, Mike McDonald
And
is
the
like
opportunity wasn't even really, like, presented itself.
he's like every defensive head coach's, like, dream. Like, he is like this guy who's got an offense that ran the ball to win a football game, that didn't have to make any risky plays on offense because they hate that. And then he just gets to go out and absolutely attack the hell out of an offense. I mean, to me, he was the biggest winner of the Super Bowl. I'm
Yeah,
very happy for Darnold. We could talk
agreed.
about Darnold here. Kenneth Walker, I thought, was the deserving MVP. I said that midway through the second quarter. It was obvious that's where this game was going. It was just going to be, we're going to Kenneth Walker you to death. And he was terrific. And because he was part of a dual backfield all season, as frustrating as it was to fantasy football owners, I think it was great for Kenneth Walker because he looked healthy and fresh and ready to fucking
Sure.
go. And Dan, if I would have told you that Jackson Smith and Jigba, the offensive player of the year, the best wide receiver in football, would have 4 catches
Yeah.
for 27 yards, you'd say, God, New England won a football game. I can't believe they did it.
Yeah, probably.
But Darnold was the perfect game manager. And I know a lot of people are crapping on Darnold, which is just crazy to me because he won the true Super Bowl, the NFC title game. Like he won that game.
Yeah.
They would not be in the Super Bowl without Darnold playing as well as he did. And then Darnold did everything you needed him to do in this game, which was don't turn the ball over and make more plays than Drake May. He made more plays than Drake May, and he didn't turn the ball over. What more could you want from him? I thought it was great. So I gave you a lot to chew on there, to respond, with McDonald and
Yeah.
Darnold and Walker.
No, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think McDonald has established himself as now the upper echelon top 5 coaches in the NFL, no question about it. Right up there with Sean McVay in terms of the guru, culture builder. The only difference is he's done it really with far less overall players, you could say, than even when Sean McVay first came into the league. Now, they did have to rebuild the Rams roster a little bit, but they had some absolute studs. McDonald and company were part of the group that drafted JSN, so they get credit for that. They drafted Zach Charbonnet. They drafted some of these offensive linemen, Devin Witherspoon on the defensive side of things, just this past year, drafting the safety.
Well, they went out and got Lawrence Eminwari, and they got
Eminwari, yes.
Yeah, and they made the trade for Leonard Williams. Like he found the guys. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, no, he put this thing together along with the rest of the staff, and so
I can't think of the GM's
name. Of credit.
The GM's name, and he's now the first GM to ever win a Super Bowl with the same team with completely different rosters.
John Schneider.
I mean, finding Gray's Abel and knowing that's the right pick. I mean, he's been really, really, really fantastic.
Yeah, and to do it with Russell Wilson, borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, to no offense to Sam Darnold, but not in that tier, right? So to be able to find different ways to get there as well, this did wonders for Sam Darnold's career, obviously. But I think too that he has found his home in Seattle for the certainly the near future. He's only 28 years old, and there's a lot of promise there. So yeah, I think this foretells a lot. And what was most impressive for the Seattle win is how they got it. They got here. They weren't handed this Super Bowl championship. They had to beat a gauntlet of a division, which they took care of business for pretty much the entire year, right? And then on top of it, had to beat that division once again in the postseason. They had to take on the 2 of the best coaches, 2 of the best rosters, what I think was the best team in the Rams. They had to do that in the postseason itself to get here. Yes, they were at home, but they earned that against that division. So, all of it comes to the conclusion of a very well earned and hard fought title. Yep. And I think that's what makes it that much more sweet for Mike McDonald and Sam Darnold to know that they didn't just get this through some luck or
Totally.
advantageous circumstances. They clawed for this, and
No, and for
really
them,
impressive. And now we have to think about, are the Rams and the 49ers the stalwarts of the NFC West? I'm not so sure. It's now
the Rams are the
Seattle's
only
division
the
associated.
Rams are the only team. Stafford was great against Seattle. They were the only team that could put up points against them, and so we're very lucky now when you look at that NFC West of um, the battles we're going to get, and it really
100%.
is incredible. And yeah, for Darnold, man, I'm so pumped for him to go on the journey he's been on. And I think because of the contract he signed, 3 years, very reasonable money. I think it's like 100 million. So it's like he's making half of what Dak is. You know what I mean? Like there's so
Yep.
much upside for him the next couple of years. And if he's smart, he would for a 5-year, $150 million. You know what I mean? And just like again, fully guaranteed, but let's take less than the market bears, and let's keep winning.
Yeah.
It really could be a long stretch run. Can we talk maybe now a little bit about what we think the future looks like for each team? Because I got some interesting thoughts for Seattle. Number one is there's no reason to think Seattle wouldn't be in this position again next year on the surface. And then you think about like, okay, offensive coordinator is gone. Clint Kubiak is gone.
Yeah.
That hurts. Kenneth Walker is going to be a free agent. He's going to get paid. Either he stays and gets paid, takes a big, that's a lot. You're going to pay a lot for a running back, or you lose Kenneth Walker. That's going to hurt. Either way, it's going to hurt if you keep him and pay him, or you let him go and pay him. And then don't forget about the distraction of this team's for sale. And a new owner.
What a better outcome, by the way, for a team that's about to sell than you just won the Super Bowl. They just earned an extra $1 billion.
Absolutely.
From this
Absolutely. But as we know, as you know, especially being down in the Carolinas, like thinking of recent new owners, I mean, like the Waltons with Denver. Hey, we got big pockets, but they also immediately start causing distractions with stadiums and with all of this, and being very vocal. And you think about David Tepper comes in with all the money in the world, but immediately starts talking about, I should be making the call, fire this coach, do this. It's like,
and Washington was different because they were being relieved of the worst owner imaginable. Yes. So that was almost a breath of fresh air. That's not the case in Seattle. There's not going to be relief there.
It's a great point. Like Washington's kind of the opposite. But again, Washington, last year and this year kind of equal each other out too. So it's kind of like, what is this new ownership really, the stability of it all? So that to me, those are three just things to keep in mind when you think, if you're thinking Seattle dynasty has begun. Those are three things. And then I would also add on the fourth thing, and maybe it is the most important out of all of them. The AFC has the quarterbacks, the NFC has the best teams. And the NFC, now when you look at the West, with those three juggernauts, and you look at the North with three very, very good teams, and then a Vikings team that never
is a quarterback away from being a great team.
And never seems to be ugly or dysfunctional in the last so many years. You have an Atlanta team that feels like they finally got a head coach, right? And they're going to right this ship. You have a Tampa team that's interesting, and then an NFC East teams where one of them just got a Harbaugh, and they're in the biggest market in the country in a historic and then Jane Dan, like the NFC is really, really tough. And when you then say to yourself, hey, we're going to be a dynasty, Seattle might be right there. They might. I'd be shocked if Seattle doesn't make the playoffs next year. I'd be, but like to sit there and say they're automatically going to be playing an NFC title game.
It's just really hard.
It's just so hard when you think about just how good the NFC is. Then you add in, there's going to be a lot of changes. Now, I think Mike McDonald is the type of head coach that, from everything we've seen, can handle all of that. So before we move on to New England, do you have anything to add or take away from that?
No, I agree. I think the biggest question mark is going to be, what does this offense look like next year? I think the Clint Kubiak departure could be bigger than we even think. I mean, we saw kind of what a coordinator
Detroit.
purge did to Detroit. And granted, they still went 9-8. It wasn't a complete and utter disaster. But it just goes to show that like coordinators can have a huge impact on the game. And we won't know until next year how massive of a influence Clint Kubiak ultimately played. But it seems like they'll probably end up maybe promoting someone from within that was under
Detroit did.
Kubiak, which you better do that now before Kubiak poaches
Steals them.
So that's always a big question mark. Clint Kubiak's obviously going to have to contend with being the last coach. He's got a late head start on building a staff, so he's probably going to look to Seattle first. And so how much of that staff is also going to be gone? I think those are the biggest issues. Not to mention, to your point, super difficult division. Even if you're the class of your division currently, that could change instantly tomorrow, given the nature of these teams and then the conference that they play in too. So, yeah, I think they're set up for success. They've clearly got a defense and a defensive coach that works. So I don't see this team being a team that ever bottoms out. But are they going to get back to the Super Bowl? Who the hell knows? And honestly, I kind of feel similarly about New England. Like I feel confident that New England will be back in the playoffs. But will they be back next year? I don't know. I mean, like Josh Allen and the Bills aren't going anywhere. They're going to compete for this division. So you've got that. We felt that New England kind of, certainly exceeded expectations this year. Do they kind of come back to earth next year with a more difficult schedule and, third year Drake May, is there going to be a little bit of a slump back like we saw with CJ Stroud, or are they going to, build off of this momentum, this MVP caliber season and continue on? Those are the big question marks I have. The good news for New England is they can only upgrade in talent. Whereas like, you pointed like Kenneth Walker on the move, they're going to have to pay JSN very soon. Who are they going to pay there in Seattle? New ownership. New England has a different problem where they just don't have the players. They need to acquire talent. This draft is going to be crucial to if they, answering the question of whether or not they can elevate next year. It's hard to even talk about elevate when you made the Super Bowl, but it truly is like they need to be more impressive throughout the season next year. And 11 wins next year could be a much better look than the 13 wins this year based on the schedule and how they get to that 11 wins. So
It's so funny. Yeah, it really is. I agree with everything there. I think I'll add on to the fact that they're not going to catch anyone by surprise this year. This upcoming year, right? Like they were definitely midway through the season like, oh crap, do we have to really take this team seriously? And then I would say, I think one of the most concerning quotes I've heard over the last 48 hours post Super Bowl is Mike Vrabel saying, "We're fully committed. We're fully committed to Will Campbell being our left tackle going forward." Like, I mean, I just don't know how at this moment you can say that, and maybe that's just.
Well, I mean, he was such a high draft pick as year one. Like you gotta instill some confidence in this guy after the worst day of his life, right? I mean,
I just think the better way to say it is Will Campbell's our guy. Will's a stud. We're going to do whatever we have to do though to make sure we improve the offensive line.
If you move something like just like everybody else on the team, he's going to have to earn it.
Well, exactly. And just say like we're gonna all options are on the table because our offensive line let us down in this big spot. And so, but he's our guy, and we're committed to Will, and just move him inside. If all of a sudden Will Campbell becomes
he's probably going to be a guard.
If he's a stud guard for the next 10 years, who gives a shit? Like, but just don't. Yeah. So I think that's like if they really commit, like, no, Will's gonna be left tackle. I think it's a problem. I mean. I can't imagine how shaky his confidence must feel. I mean, he got destroyed in the playoffs. Yeah. Now, I get it. He was coming off an injury, but that would, to me, it would shake my confidence even more. Like, okay, before the injury, I was fine. I was doing okay. But now post injury, I was getting destroyed. And again, it's like, I know it's some tough defenses, but I just think that if I'm New England, I'm seriously considering that. I think New England has a if I had to say of the two teams who has the better chance to make their title game next year, like the AFC or NFC title game, I'm gonna choose Seattle over New England. And I know that might seem counterintuitive because again, I just said how hard the NFC is. But I think the AFC is a conference that you're going to see a lot of unpredictability next year. 7 of the 10 new coaches are AFC. And again, they have the better quarterbacks. And so if you're getting a fully healthy Allen, a fully healthy Burrow, a fully healthy Lamar, you're getting Herbert with his tackles, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, I just think the AFC could just become an extra level of unpredictable. And let's be honest too. Drake May has history he's fighting against. Second year quarterbacks who made the Super Bowl in their second year never made it back. That list includes Dan Marino, Colin Kaepernick, Joe Burrow, and Brock Purdy.
Well, it can't
Now,
be,
if I were to say to you,
that can't. Ben was in his second year when he won it, and then they went back.
but he made it back.
They went back 3 years later.
Yeah, but I'm saying second year. There are second year quarterbacks who made it in their second year who never made it back.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
I'm not saying.
I thought you were saying like
there
only
is
like second year quarterbacks have never made it. Yeah, I got you.
No, but maybe Ben doesn't count because did Ben start every game his rookie year?
No, because he started the second game of the season.
So maybe that's where the stat is. Maybe Ben is the slight asterisk to that or something like that. But I say that to just say there you never know.
It's hard to make it back, period, for anybody.
Yeah.
So you're already working uphill with that.
Now I believe in Vrabel. I believe in the Patriots organization. They've given us no reason to doubt them. And Drake May, we're gonna have to get answers on Drake May a little bit. I just think it's funny because as we now transition, I think to kind of like looking at the whole season as a whole. To me, I think back to those conversations we had in July about quarterback rankings, and we talked, and I was the first one to admit. Remember, I made the case that Caleb was better than Drake, but people were poo-pooing on Caleb. You remember those conversations? Yes. But even I admitted, well, listen, the gap between Jaden and Drake and Caleb is ginormous. It's pretty darn big. You look at it now, and Dan Patrick did today on his show, and I loved it. I think I retweeted it, or I tweeted at him like, Dan, you got it. He said, if you're redrafting the 2024 NFL draft, Dan's like, I'm taking Caleb number 1 still. Like
100%.
Of those 3 guys.
I don't even know why that's controversial, honestly.
And then he's like, then I would go Drake, then I would go Jaden. And he's like, and he even said too, he's like, good luck with Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and JJ McCarthy. Like, kind of, so that to me is like what we love. So what we said, it's one of the things that we said going into this season that we did get was like, we said we'd get clarity on that 2024 draft class. I don't know if we got 100% clarity, but we got a lot more meat on the bone to chew with that 2024 draft class. With the rise of Caleb and Drake, with the fall dramatically of Jaden, and with Bo Nix, another year of just kind of like, he looks like he's the new Dak, Kirk Cousins 2.0. Mm-hmm. And so that to me is one of the biggest storylines of this season. I'm thinking about is that 2024 quarterback draft. I like. What about you? We can kind of bounce back and forth. I have a couple more, but
we'll kind of give out some of our headlines and storylines of the season. And I think it's fair that we maybe can't include New England and Seattle in this because that kind of writes itself already. It's kind of apparent. Neither of these teams are expected to make the Super Bowl, and they did. Sam Darnold, obviously, so those are great top storylines of the season. But these are the other storylines that we're thinking of. Well, for me, I mean, I certainly don't want to steal this from you, but to me, it's the Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams arrival on scene, delivering and exceeding expectations in year one, completely transforming the tide for Chicago, a fan base that had been obviously, having to lick their wounds for a long time, to get back to not only relevance, but excellence, to see Caleb perform in the way he did, delivering some of the greatest moments that we've seen in a decade, pairing that with the defeats of Green Bay, doing so in the postseason, and really giving the Rams a good fight as well. I think all of that in compilation. I mean, what a great story because it would have been an easy story of, oh, the Bears blew another quarterback, blew another draft pick, but instead they got the hire right and they've completely changed their fortunes.
Yeah. You didn't steal it. I'll just add
Yeah,
something to that. I just want to remind everyone this was a team that started 0-2 with losses to Detroit and Minnesota. And for them to end up where they did as the 2 seed, 11 wins, winning 11 of the final, what,
six or 17.
11 of the final, 17 games or 16 games. Wait, they play 17 games. So 11 of the last 15 games. 11-4 down the stretch. Yeah, they were 11-6.
We're good at math here.
Yeah, here we go, math guys. And so, yeah, I just think the Bears obviously deserve a ton of credit for feeling like, hey, if this is the Bears are because the Packers and the Steelers have remained relevant and good, well-run franchises. I would say the Niners too. I'd say the Bears and the Cowboys, and the Bears more so than the Cowboys, because the Cowboys haven't been as bottom ugly as the Bears over the last 20 years. They haven't made it to Super Bowls, but they've been relevant with Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. The Bears, the NFL is better when the Bears are
they're
better.
blue blood.
It's just a fact, and that's that. The ratings prove that. I don't have to just prove that as a Bears fan. So if this is the start of the Bears being relevant, meaning they don't get slaughtered by Green Bay every year and they actually can be competitive, you're going to watch as ratings and interest is really, really huge. I would say the second storyline for me when I look back at this year is the quarterback injuries. It just created such frustration for others, I think confusion for some, and I think it hurts some legacies. You look at Purdy, you look at Love, you look at CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. All of those guys missed either the season, significant portions of the season, or at least 3 games. And the storylines for them weren't the same. I mean, look at CJ Stroud. Misses 3 games. That was the start of their win streak, was Davis Mills going 3-0. Remember, when CJ came back, we were kind of like, Dave, I don't know. They're 3-0 with Davis Mills. They turned it around. And CJ Stroud never elevated to like we saw the play his rookie year. Brock Purdy. Mac Jones was winning a bunch of games for the Niners. And there was some questions like, is this a soft benching? Like, are they just keep rolling with Mac Jones? And Purdy came back and played well, but obviously, didn't elevate his play and make the run that the Niners thought they should make. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, similar thing. Gets injured, teams hangs around, comes back, and it just never felt like he was Lamar Jackson, of the 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson. Burrow, same thing. Another year, another injury. And obviously Mahomes, his first devastating injury of his career. And will he even be back in time for the start of the next season? I think quarterback injuries, Jordan Love, Malik Willis is the guy who everyone's saying is the next Sam Darnold because of again, the amount of time Jordan Love has missed in the last 2 years and Malik Willis's good play. If I'm Arizona and I'm a LaFleur, maybe I go all in on Malik Willis, you know what I mean? And make him into the next Sam Darnold.
Yep.
I've also heard talks that there are so many quarterback needy teams. Davis Mills, people could be trying to trade for Davis Mills, but Houston in the building. I read a story from one insider. I can't remember who was Pelissaro or someone saying the Texans know how valuable Mills is. Like they do not like there's concerns in that building.
Quarterbacks are important. They're very important.
And there's concerns about the future with CJ Stroud. And so I think the quarterback, there's so many big time quarterback injuries. And the storylines that came out of those injuries are ones I think will linger into next year in the years coming. This was not just a normal, guy tears the ACL, misses a season tanks. That was the Chiefs. Obviously, it's bigger news because it's the best player in football who gets his first major injury. But when you look at the storylines that came out of Green Bay with Malik Willis now maybe getting a starting job somewhere with Houston, and then obviously with Lamar and never returning to form, and for Burrow, again, it's like this guy may go down as the most wasted quarterback in NFL history, up there with Luck if he just can't stay healthy. It's certainly something that'll stick with me for a long time this 2025 season.
One of my other storylines is that is the year of the big wins in the coaching carousel. The up and coming young coaches having success in their first year. 7 coaching vacancies. I would argue there were 2 apparent duds, and one is still outstanding, and that would be Aaron Glenn of the Jets and Pete Carroll. The hiring there in Vegas clearly didn't work out. But the rest, I mean, Ben Johnson of the Bears, clear winner. Mike Vrabel to the Patriots, clear winner. I think Kellen Moore with the Saints, the way they finished the season, the way that they looked competent with a less than ideal talent pool, that was successful. Liam Cohen, what he was able to do with Trevor Lawrence, complete transformation there in Jacksonville, almost competing for the 1 seed going into the final week of the season. Brian Schottenheimer, I thought that he exceeded expectations from what he was expected to do coming in and take care of his side of the ball. He did that. They were a very good offense this year. They traded away their greatest asset in Micah Parsons, and so predictably, they were a weak defense was made completely incompetent.
He did better than we expected by far.
He did better than we expected. Now, I don't know if he's a great coach. They're going to predict a lot moving forward, but at the very least, it was average. And so, all of that is to say, I think that 5 of the 7 coaches panned out, and to me, that's a hit rate that doesn't happen all too often.
Okay, my final headline. I'm going to go with a quarterback who I could have just included with my last headline who got injured, but Daniel Jones. But the headline is not Daniel Jones. The headline is Phil Rivers. We got Phil Rivers.
Okay, yeah.
I'll always remember this season as Phil Rivers came back. Remember Phil Rivers almost
and then to
beat
be
that
in the
Seattle
head coaching,
team.
And then to be in the head coaching cycle.
He almost beat that Seattle team in Seattle. The first week back, he played well. They were within because. And what that just goes to show you is why Stafford has success against Seattle is their scheme is everything. So if you can diagnose the scheme, you can have success against them, which is another thing that Drake May and obviously McDaniels struggled with. That's huge. I would also say in all another seriousness is like I do just want to give like Sam Darnold, like the Darnold, Jets, Vikings, Niners, like that.
Panthers.
Yeah, that kind of triumphant of like, if you're a Jets fan, it's just, you get clarity because you're like, our organization truly sucks.
Yep.
If you're the Panthers, you get clarity because you're like, he was 4-2 with us and we just cast him aside and fired the coach and started fresh. The Niners, you now have to face the music. It was before you paid Purdy. You had him in your building and you chose Purdy over him. And then for the Vikings, absolutely, you chose to go with JJ McCarthy over him. And like that, those are the things you're going to have to live with. And then for Sam getting a Super Bowl ring, we'll do a quarterback ranking at some point in time this offseason. I think it'd be really difficult to not put him in the top 10 somewhere. I just don't know. I don't know how you don't. He has the most wins of any quarterback since 2024. He's got a Super Bowl title. And the way he played down the stretch was just incredible. So that when you add in like 4 franchises and Darnold, it is something that will linger in this offseason. Again, it goes back to this whole thing we talked about earlier. There are teams going to look for the next Sam Darnold. Maybe that's Malik Willis. Maybe that's Davis Mills. I don't think it's Kenny Pickett or Justin Fields or Mitch Trubisky or, any of those other guys, but it could be one of those two.
Yep, for sure. What a season it was. What a culmination of so many incredible games and incredible division battles that led to this.
And congrats to the Seahawks.
Yeah, obviously it turned into a relatively boring game, all things considered. But you gotta, tip of the cap to the Seattle Seahawks, and like we've said here, I don't think either of us would be surprised if they find themselves back in this situation in the very near future. So,
but they got a lot of questions to answer. They got a lot.
They got got to get to work. It's off season time, and got to get to work.
And hopefully, maybe knock on wood, next year's Super Bowl can go back to like that overtime Chiefs Niners, because the last two does. The Chiefs got blown out, and the Patriots did not show up at all.
Yeah, and at least some scoring early, please. That'd be great, because it was 3-0 after one yet again. Just slow starts to the Super Bowls. Can we get rid of that? Next week, I believe we're gonna dive into all the head coaches. There's a lot of
10 hires.
Changing. 10. It's wild. A lot of turnover there, so a lot to get to. We'll discuss that next week. But in the meantime, enjoy your week, everyone. Appreciate you being here with us all season long. We hope you stick around for the off season, because it is never a dull moment here on the Football Lounge. We always have great stuff to talk about, and we've got a lot of great stuff planned as we get ready now for the NFL draft coming up in
free agency
2 months.
And free agency is what, in like
3
weeks?
3.5, 4 weeks away.
Let's go.
There you go. Let's go. All right. We'll see y'all here next week.